It's nearly 6 a.m. on Christmas Day in London in 1950. A young man runs into the famed Westminster Abbey, looking a bit frantic and disheveled. He drops to his hands and knees, feeling around for something in the darkness. Miraculously, he accidentally kicks the small object, his car keys. He sprints out of the Abbey and returns just minutes later. He grabs the ends of a cloth wrapped around a large object and drags it across the chapel floor and into the snowy morning. He just liberated a centuries-old artifact.
Welcome to Heist Club, where we've got a new heist story coming at you each week. We're here to uncover the details behind some of the most audacious and ridiculous robberies of all time. How they pulled it off, how they got caught, and the mysteries that remain. Bank heists, art heists, diamond heists, and other capers you won't believe. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Todd.
Welcome to the club.
Happy holidays, Jesse.
Hey, Todd. How's it going? Happy holidays.
Not bad. It's Hanukkah season in my house. You know, we are feeling the Hanukkah spirit, if you would.
Nice. I'm doing some Christmas stuff. Looking forward to it. It's coming up.
Christmas stuff? Is that putting up a tree, shopping?
Going to other families' houses, doing a little bit of decorating.
Nice. Christmas stuff, like you said.
You know, Christmas time.
I'm doing Hanukkah stuff, lighting candles, eating chocolate coins, giving my kids way too many presents. Hanukkah stuff.
Well, I'm eating chocolate coins every day.
Oh, that's a good life then. I do think, it's our last episode of the year. It's fun to do a holiday episode. I think we should do a Christmas heist. How's that sound to you?
I think that sounds like a great idea.
Okay, a Christmas Day heist. Here we go. Today's heist takes us to the land of Scotland, which is interesting. I'm actually going there in a few months with my family, so
yeah.
We'll see if I try to hit up some sites based on, our story today.
This will be good prep for you.
Yeah, maybe,
Who knows?
1950s Scotland really, is my...
Wait, you're not going to 1950s Scotland? Okay.
I'm actually going to present day Scotland. If I didn't make that clear, I'm sorry about that. I'm not going to 1950s Scotland. I'm going to 2020, mid-2020s. It could be last year, it could be next year, any of the above.
Whoa.
But, okay, back to Scotland, the land of William Wallace, Andy Murray, and Tilda Swinton, and the setting... The 1950s setting for our story, not the modern day setting.
Right.
We're talking about the Stone of Destiny. So the Stone of Destiny, also known as the Stone of Scone. Scone, I guess is how they would say it in Scotland versus...
I'm calling it Scone Stone.
The Scone Stone in English.
The blueberry Scone Stone.
It's the Stone of Scone. Scone. I'm not sure how I'm not Mike Myers-esque. I can't pronounce all the Scottish
You can't channel your
words.
best Shrek.
No. But this scone, or Scone stone, is named after the Scottish city of the same name. But, Stone of Destiny is a way cooler name. Also cooler than Dial of Destiny, which is a terrible Indiana Jones movie.
Or the Pick of Destiny.
Oh, the Pick of Destiny. Oh, I like that. Now we're going in better space. Yes.
Right, yeah.
But the Stone of Scone is a 336-pound red sandstone over 2 feet long and 16 inches wide. So pretty solid size. It has mythical origins. Some believed it was the pillow on which Jacob dreamed of his ladder to heaven in the Bible. Some, maybe not me, but others. Others believe it was smuggled out of Egypt by a rebellious Pharaoh's daughter. I don't know as much about that story, but I'm intrigued. Also sounds biblical, perhaps. Mm-hmm. But this stone was an ancient symbol of Scotland for centuries. It is said to have roared with joy when its monarch stepped before it. So pretty creative stories. Mm. And then in 1296, King Edward I of England took it as a war trophy during the Scottish Wars of Independence after the Battle of Dunbar. Clearly, we were talking about the stone because it's going to have quite the importance, maybe the key object of our heist today.
Maybe.
But after King Edward I stole it, he commissioned a throne to be built to fit the stone called King Edward's Chair. And the chair and stone took up permanent residence at the famed Collegiate Church of St. Peter, which most people know as Westminster Abbey, which is the site of royal coronations, funerals, and of course, weddings. Although I can't say I myself am a watcher of royal weddings. Are you, Jesse?
Nope.
You don't seem like one either. Many of our listeners, perhaps, though. Many of our listeners.
No, I don't keep up with the royal family. I don't watch those amazing TV shows either.
We are clearly the monarch experts to be telling this story. But we swear, this is just background. This is not all the importance.
Right.
Although, that has value in certain parts of the world. So after taking what was the symbol of Scottish nationhood, Edward was effectively calling himself the King of the Scots now, and even sitting on it. So, not showing a lot of respect, if you would.
Yeah.
And all subsequent monarchs after Edward were crowned in the chair, now known as the coronation chair, which you've probably heard of, or maybe not Jesse, I mean, our listeners, sitting on the stone. And you can imagine the Scottish people would maybe hold a grudge over this, which over the years inspired more than one plot to swipe the stone back for Scottish glory. And that is what takes us to our story. Although we do have one more piece of background, don't we?
Yep. One of these plans was in the 1930s, Scottish nationalist and stonemason Robert Gray made a replica of the stone and planned to swap it out Indiana Jones style. All right. He even crafted a wheelchair to hold the heavy block. He had devised a clever plot, but all of that went to the wayside as the 1930s wore on and into the early 40s, since, Europe was facing larger problems.
Yes, they were.
I could think of.
So was the world, if you would, not just Europe.
The world. What could it be?
We'll pause on that for suspense and reveal later what was happening in Europe in the 1940s.
Yeah, no one knows. There's like one listener. It's like, wow, I can't wait to find out. Gray's vision of liberating the stone seemed to be dying out, but a single spark can still ignite a flame under the right conditions, even if it takes a few years. Post-World War II Britain is a cohesive nation, high off the victory of the Axis powers and pumped up with a new welfare state. Citizens of the UK are pretty happy with their situation. As for Scottish nationalism, in October 1949, Scottish National Party leader John McCormick drafted what he called the Scottish Covenant, with the goal of creating a Scottish parliament. However, post-war Scotland was more of a British country, with less of a focus on their own culture. The Scottish National Party only received 7% of the vote in seats they contested in the 1950 general election. They only ran 3 candidates. The left-wing Labour Party, which is like the U.S. Democrats but British, had withdrawn the commitment to Home Rule, which is the independent Scottish Parliament, from its manifesto.
They basically, it sounds like they were very united, but it's like we are a united kingdom, if you would. And so a little bit less talk of the let's be free and let's be separate.
Right. Yeah, you're right. They said the matter was much too complicated. Conservatives, think of the Republicans, were at the high point of their electoral history north of the border and were strongly against Scottish independence. So with all that going on, let's meet one of the Scottish Covenant supporters, 25-year-old University of Glasgow student Ian Hamilton. According to the Telegraph, Ian, quote, wanted to waken the Scots up. Some may not care or even have forgotten about the stone, but to Ian, it was of great importance. When he was 8 years old, a young lad, his mother told him the story of King Edward's conquest. Ever since, the stone was always on his mind. What a bedtime story, actual history to feel passionate about.
Yeah, I want to know more about his mom now. Clearly meant something to her and her family, or she felt the pings of Scottish independence in her blood and was trying to pass it on.
Maybe his mom was Mel Gibson.
I have a lot of questions.
All right, anyway. So now that he's 25 and his prefrontal cortex has probably developed, he's going to make a plan. Ian studies hard. He takes out every book on the Stone of Destiny in Glasgow's Mitchell Library. He also studies the Abbey itself to plan his attack and find the perfect route of entry.
We should say he studies it, but not not on site. He's basically, reading up on it, and we're not saying he actually is
right
going there from afar and,
maybe the library has the blueprints of the Abbey. Who knows?
Yeah, there you go.
I got you. Well, he finds the best way in, a door on the east end made of pine instead of oak. I'm glad he knows his woods. It was a quick replacement from war damage, so it's just a cheaper, easier door. Pretty clever to catch that, I guess.
Sure.
There's also a works yard that conveniently leads to the door. Ian makes a brief trip to the Abbey in November 1950 to case the place. So now he's there doing in person.
Now he's there. He's confirming his findings and saying, does this work? Will this work? Can we pull this off?
After all, the Stone of Destiny deserved to return to its rightful home. Sure, he's planning a heist of a relic, but is it really stealing if you're returning it to someone, to its original owner? Yeah, probably.
We have heard this question before. This is not the first time we've heard people say, no, I wasn't stealing. I was returning something to its country of origin, which actually is complicated. So
right, and that's a motivation to steal something. It is stealing, but you're stealing it because you feel like it is, you're in the right.
Although, and we can say, unlike some other examples where we've heard about this and we didn't buy it and we think they're just trying to sell it and make money, in this case, to give things away, they're not trying to sell it. Like, this is about Scottish independence. This is about, like, this belongs to Scotland. We should have this home. So I do believe them here. I'm actually not questioning it. Right. It's more in other cases when people use it as the excuse to get some good PR behind them. Yeah. So, but he's got the plan, but Ian does have a pretty significant problem, we should add, which is, remember, this stone weighs 336 pounds. So he can't carry it by himself. He cannot do the job by himself, which is, always a fun part in any of our stories where you have to recruit a gang.
A ragtag bunch.
Yes. Always our fun time. But we will say, 336 pounds, that's also 24 stone, as they might say in the UK. So it's
more stone to worry about? What's going on here?
It's a 24 stone, or... Although I guess also the UK, they use stone more for body weight. But one stone is 14 pounds, and
noted.
That means this is 24 stone. Back to the recruits. Back to Ian needing some help. He recruits some of his friends, starting with Gavin Vernon and Kay Matheson. Gavin is a 24-year-old engineering student at Glasgow University, fondly described by the Telegraph as short, strong, and with a keen liking for beer. I would love to be described that way, I think. I don't know. Well, I mean, I am short.
I don't know. If you're drinking so much, then that's a part of your, describe this man. That's probably not the best thing.
That's a good point. So, but does keen liking for beer mean that he's an alcoholic, or does it mean that he's a little bit overweight and that's the way of saying it,
Maybe he just runs a craft brewery in 1950. No, I don't know.
Yeah. He looks spiffy in his suit, though.
No,
I feel like we have a picture of Kay we'll get to in a second, too. But the 50s were producing, it's a high point in fashion is what I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I just feel like everyone had to be in the suit back then.
Yeah. No, but they did dress up more often. That is the way it was.
Everyone had to have a fancy hat.
So that's Gavin. Kay is a 21-year-old Gaelic-speaking domestic science teacher at a local school. Ian wanted a woman as part of the crew because he believed it would make them more innocuous. And according to Kay, there were only 2 girls in the national movement mad enough to join. And we have a picture of her, and this is...
She looks pretty mad. No, she looks pleasant.
But yeah, both were members of the Scottish Covenant movement. The movement started, as we said before, by Scottish National Party leader John McCormick just the year before. So Ian even informs McCormick of his plans. So I guess McCormick's pretty accessible to all the members. McCormick approves and gives Ian 50 British pounds for his effort, which does not sound like a lot, but that would be nearly 1,500 British pounds today, which is a little over $2,000 US. So it's a decent chunk, maybe to help him with, renting a car or whatever they might need,
right?
Which they will need, as we'll mention.
Yeah.
Somehow, though, someone else caught wind of their plans. The bright-eyed 20-year-old Alan Stewart hears about the heist and he wants in. He also attends Glasgow University as a member of the Scottish Covenant movement, so probably just heard it from one of them, whatever it is. But Alan begs to join Ian on his crusade, even offering his car as a second getaway vehicle. We have a picture here of the 4 of them. This picture is from 1952, not 1950, and it's signed by someone named Sandy, who we don't know who they are. But you have Alan, Kay, Ian, and Gavin all dressed up. Looks like, I would say it looks like they're dressed up going up for like a fancy event. But so the plan is in place. They have the cars. Kay's is a rental, as I mentioned. The manpower and Ian's genius plot. It's time to have a date with Destiny after this break.
Stay tuned.
Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
The Projection Booth is single-handedly the greatest film podcast you could ever listen to or could possibly want.
Top notch. 5 stars. This has quickly become one of my favorite film-related podcasts. Always interesting.
A completely unpretentious yet fully comprehensive look at films from all genres.
This podcast is an amazing resource and one that helps in the discovery or rediscovery of films for anyone who enjoys thinking about cinema.
If you love movies and podcasts, subscribe and enjoy the Projection Booth.
Every episode is beautifully crafted to give you a true audio experience. a wonderful companion to the films they cover.
The projection booth is awesome. A wide range of films covered from classic to cult to contemporary. Thoroughly researched, very entertaining, and always informative.
Projection Booth Podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
Welcome back, Heist Clubbers. As we said, to catch you up, Scottish nationalist Ian Hamilton is about to achieve his childhood dream, rescuing the Stone of Destiny from its British captors. He and his friends, Kay, Gavin, and Alan, are about to set off. So it's the end of 1950, just a few days before Christmas, and they depart from Glasgow in their 2 Ford Anglias.
The journey took them nearly 20 hours, and that's a long drive. You think of those countries as small, but not really. It takes like 13 hours to get from New York to Atlanta.
Is that your way of saying I should get in a car and drive to you, Jesse? Are you so subtly saying, hey, Todd, it would only take you 13 hours to drive to me? Next podcast we do, I'll be doing it from the car, driving to you. How about that?
Okay, that is...
I can't see my notes, but from what I remember...
Right, yeah.
See how that goes.
But there is a good reason it took so long, because they were battling the snowy roads for the entire drive. Also, keep in mind that their cars don't have heaters, and it's the middle of winter. It's the coldest winter Scotland and the rest of Britain has seen since 1890. They arrive in London on December 23rd. They conduct a brief war room in Lyons Corner House, a popular chain restaurant. A chain restaurant, we should add, that gain notoriety for their waitresses, often referred to as nippies for their efficient service.
I love that detail.
Okay.
I think Jesse does not love it.
No,
apparently.
I'm just like deciding not to make jokes about it. So let's just keep going.
let our listeners make their own jokes.
Yeah. It's cold and it's called nippies. All right.
That's right.
What they're about to do is daring, dangerous, and maybe even considered treasonous. Will they be able to break through the door easily? Can they jointly transport the heavy stone? Questions remain. But they're here for Scotland. It's time for action. Fired up, they advance on the Abbey.
So, phase 1. During open hours, Ian conceals himself in a cart, or a trolley in British terms, inside the Abbey, while Gavin, Alan, and Kay all wait outside. And then once the Abbey closes, the plan is to let Gavin and Alan in to rescue the stone. Pretty solid plan.
Gotta rescue that stone.
Yeah. Romance the stone.
Romance it.
To rescue.
They also won't leave.
So, pretty solid plan, though,
Yeah.
if not for one hiccup, which seems like a pretty obvious one. Ian didn't take the night guards into account. I guess he thought it was just, when they're closed, there's no one here, even though it's the freaking Abbey.
Yeah, that's weird.
Rookie move. So, again, maybe not as smart as we thought. Maybe not the genius plan we mentioned earlier.
Yep.
But, one little detail they're going to adjust. He tries his best to stay hidden, but is quickly found. Luckily, Ian does a good impression of a homeless man, apparently. So he gets thrown out only with a warning. And the sympathetic guard tosses him some spare change and gives him a half-hearted happy Christmas. So phase 1, plan 1 did not go well. It could have been much worse, I guess. Ian takes the failure as a learning opportunity, though. They get right back on the horse the next day, which is now Christmas Eve. Still nippy outside. They're still making it work. Gavin, the beer lover, and Alan, the newbie, they hold a stakeout and study the watchmen's patterns and shift changes. So they're a little bit more prepared now. And now while hanging out inside the Abbey, they even have a pleasant chat with the priest, apparently. So, they're getting along with everyone.
Okay.
Nice guys. And then with Gavin and Alan's fact-finding mission complete, Ian is confident they could pull this off. Just no hiding inside the Abbey this time. They wouldn't want to get caught again.
Yep.
They just have to wait until the sun goes down to execute their now revised plan.
They wait until the dead of night, a little before 4 a.m., before they approach the Abbey. Ian parks his car a few blocks away while Kay drives Gavin and Alan to their planned entrance point. Gavin, Ian, and Alan sneak in through the works yard while Kay waits in the car. They take crowbars, or in British terms, jimmies, to the weak pine door. I
did not know jimmies.
I did not know
jimmies. Yeah, it's a new one for me.
Mm-hmm. We're learning so much.
You're trying to open up a weak pine door. You need a jimmy.
Need a jimmy. I guess crowbars are weird too. It's not made of crow. What's going on here?
I don't know that because it's black. Just because it's black. Is that where that comes from?
I never thought about it right now.
We'll look that up later.
We'll never know. Despite being an inferior wood, it takes an immense effort to break through. The pine is holding strong. Kay said the noise was so loud, she was certain all of London could hear it. She was certain all of London. That's a little exaggerated. Ian says this was the moment he realized that he was at the point of no return. Once they got the door ajar, they enter the Abbey and find themselves standing in Poets' Corner, a section of the Abbey where famous writers, playwrights, and poets are buried. But there's no time for a history lesson. They reached...
This is not a history podcast.
No.
This is a heist podcast, Jesse. Come on, move on.
Clearly
move on.
not a history lesson coming from us today. They reached the chapel containing King Edward I's tomb and, of course, his chair. Okay, it's go time. With surprising ease, they remove the barrier protecting the stone. The chair is only slightly damaged. They grab onto one of the iron hooks attached to the stone and pull, and they crash to the floor, and a massive corner piece breaks off. You might think this is a moment of panic for Ian, but no, it was a moment of relief, because it became much easier to carry. So he just chipped it, and he's happier that it's easier.
Do we think he's just pretending it was part of the plan? He's like, yeah, I meant to do that. Yeah.
I don't want to bring it back in perfect condition. That would be boring.
We'll just, I got some glue at home. We'll be fine.
He removes his coat and wraps it around a large piece as a quasi-rope. Gavin and Alan take hold of the arms and start dragging. Ian grabs a smaller piece around 90 pounds and sprints out of there holding it like a rugby ball. A 90-pound rugby ball. That would be more interesting if that's for...
That'd be a hard game to play, yeah. Seriously.
Just dragging a rock around a field while everyone's trying to tackle you. He later said it felt like, quote, holding Scotland's soul. That's pretty poetic.
It is. I love that. It's quite beautiful. It really speaks to how much this meant to them, you know? I mean, even though the stone just broke in pieces and they're not really freaking out over it, but maybe they're feeling this adrenaline of trying to pull this off.
Yeah.
But in that moment, they still feel like the national pride in what they're doing.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
Feeling the 90-pound weight of Scotland as they sprint across the Abbey.
Literally, yeah.
Kate anxiously waits outside for the guys to emerge with Scotland's pride and joy. But to her horror, she spots a policeman standing on the street corner, illuminated by a gaslight. She inches the car as close as she can to the entrance. Just as she stops, she sees Ian running like a maniac towards her. He dumps his piece into the trunk, or boot, as our English friends would call it, and dives into the passenger seat. He wasn't slick enough, and the policeman approaches them to investigate the commotion. What to do? They come up with the best diversion. Aggressively making out. That's their plan.
That's like every movie, right? It's like, I love that someone did it in real life. It's always like normally it's a moment of tension in a movie and it's a will they or won't they, and they kiss then and they finally kiss. But I don't know if there was a will they, won't they with Ian and Kay.
You're right. Let's just say there was to make it more interesting.
Oh, yeah.
They finally make out after all of the tension.
Oh my God, they're kissing. Ooh, I'm so excited.
And then they have to wonder, like, hey, were we pretending or not? Was it real? What's going on?
No, that was just for the policeman. Of course.
The policeman knocks on the car window, and Ian and Kay put on a BAFTA-winning performance. You see, officer, they're just long-distance lovers who haven't seen each other in months and couldn't find a hotel room on Christmas Eve. So much so he had to sprint to the car and put something in the trunk and jump in and start making out.
Outside the Abbey, of all places.
It's like, dude, I saw you run to the car. Like, it's like I saw it happen in real time, man. But the policeman buys their story, and they have a chat and even share a cigarette. But there are some suspicious noises coming from the Abbey. Every time the policeman shifts focus to the Abbey, Ian and Kay make sure to laugh even louder or change the subject to keep his attention. I could definitely...
Again, also very filmic. Always very like, achoo! Oh, I'm so sorry. That was just me making some noise over here. What do you... Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're so funny. It would be cliche. What's so funny is like it'd be a cliched scene in the movie, but in real life, it's what they did.
Yeah. But dang, with coppers around, Gavin and Alan need to get it together because they're just making so much noise. The policeman eventually let them off with a warning. Ian and Kay successfully make off with their piece. Well, really, Kay does. Ian gets out to help Gavin and Alan and retrieve his car. Gavin and Alan did not get it together. In fact, they thought the worst. When Ian fled the scene and did not return, they assumed he and Kay had ditched them. So they bailed. They just left the stone and Ian's coat there at the Abbey. Uh-oh. So now, upon his return, Ian is standing in a vacant abbey with a 250-pound stone. He has no choice but to drag it to his car himself. He just needs to pull out his car keys and wait. Where are his keys? Oh yeah, they're in his coat pocket. He digs into his pockets, but they're empty. So they're not in his coat pocket. What to do?
Or they were, they're not anymore, yeah.
He desperately gropes around on the floor looking for his keys, hoping they just fell out of his pocket. He even strikes some matches for his much-needed but fast-fleeting light. He's about to give up when he accidentally kicks something that jingles. His keys! He just randomly kicks them and finds them in the dark. That's pretty impressive. He sprints to his car and drives it to the entrance. At least Gavin and Alan left his coat. He drags the nearly 250-pound piece out of the abbey and with great effort manhandles it into the trunk of his car.
This is all very ironic, right? Because he recruited all these other people to help him because it was going to be so heavy. And in the end, here he is alone in Westminster Abbey. Can't find his keys. Then he finds his keys and this 250-pound stone. He has to figure out how to do it. And he pulls it off, though. I mean, I'm quite impressed that, Ian he's committed, He figures out a way to do it.
Yeah, it's quite a mess, but he keeps going,
Yeah.
Lots of
I do think we see that with Heist, right? Things don't usually go to plan. And it's all about how you adapt. And
I just feel like I would be the opposite. The moment I drop something, I would bail. You're like, oh no, it's going wrong. Goodbye. Never mind.
Yeah, you lose your accomplices, or when you have to drag a 250-pound stone to your car.
Yeah.
How did he get it in the car?
He's, I don't know, he's a strong man.
That's so crazy. God, his arms have to be really killing him when he finally meets up with with the other guys, Gavin and Alan. He has to be like, please, can you drive now?
I know.
My arms hurt.
I guess, you just lift with your legs. No, I don't know. I'm sure the adrenaline was a lot of it.
Actually, it's probably true. He probably lifted the car first. He's like, I'm going to lift up my car.
Just as a practice.
Yes. So it's almost 6 a.m. when he pulls it off, triumphant. And then not long after, at 6:15 a.m., officials of the Abbey discover the stone is missing. So pretty quickly. They weren't there while he's standing alone in the Abbey trying to make it work, but shortly after they arrive and notice it's gone. The British government assumes that it would be headed for Scotland, so they know. So for the first time in 400 years, they actually close off the borders between Scotland and England, at least briefly. But they do close them, thinking, wow, we gotta stop them from stealing our stone. Meanwhile, as Ian drives along London, he stumbles upon Gavin and Alan, looking downtrodden and incredibly lost. This is amazing. The story is incredible. They're happy to learn that their friend had not abandoned them. They hop in. Unfortunately, the Ford Anglia is not a F-150. So a 250-pound stone plus 3 men basically feels like it's going to wreck the suspension.
Yeah.
Gavin, being strong and a beer lover, of course, decides he will find his own way home. He gets out, hops a train to Scotland. In the meantime, Kay in the other car makes it to a friend's house in Birmingham. She leaves the car and the piece of stone, the 90-pound piece of stone she has, and then also takes a train to Scotland. Alan and Ian know the police will immediately suspect the stone is on its way to Scotland, correctly. So they make a different play. They travel to Kent, which is in southern England, and they bury the stone in an open field. Not before dousing in whiskey, apparently, in celebration.
Nice.
Scotch whiskey, I assume. So it's doused in whiskey, and then they bury it. Ian marks the burial spot on a map, mails it to a friend in Glasgow in case they get arrested. So that's smart planning. And the taking of the stone causes international frenzy. From the Morning Union in Massachusetts, Yard, I assume this is Scotland Yard, asks for aid and search for Stone of Scone. From Toronto, Jacob's Pillow, Trojan Horse, Stone is legendary. From Montana, the story of the theft of the Stone of Scone should be rated as the #1 tale of the year. So, all these headlines, making waves. How did Scotland take the news? Well, many Scottish people were overjoyed. The symbol of Scotland's nationhood might come home finally. But some are actually upset by the manner it was done, robbing a church on Christmas and all that. I could see how that could offend certain morals.
Right.
But it wasn't supposed to be Christmas. It just didn't work out and time just bled over.
Yeah.
So the British government did post a £2,000 reward, which would be about £60,000 today, which is more than $80,000 US. Feels a little low, right? It's not nothing, but and we know the Mona Lisa had a $5 million award, and that was 40 years earlier in time. So by comparison,
they don't care that much about the stone.
They don't. It sounds like they don't, really. Like they're valuing it by shutting the borders, but they're not necessarily putting the money down.
Right.
That cheap monarchy. we know who to blame.
Yeah, exactly.
And in response to the theft, King George IV sent a reprimand to the Dean of Westminster and to a folk singer named John McAvoy, because he composed a song called The Wee Magic Stane in honor of the event, stane being a Scots word for stone. We have some lyrics here. Jesse, you're the musician. Do you want to harbor an attempt?
Sure. Yeah, I'll give it a shot.
If you don't sing, I'm not going to be offended. But
I can't do the accent. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe don't even try.
Let's see how this goes. It goes, "Oh, the Dean of Westminster was a powerful man. He held all the strings of the state in his hand. But we are this great business and flustered him nane, till some rogue ran away with his wee magic stain." How was that? Was that really good?
That was good. I don't know about really good, but it was good. I mean, it's also it's got stain, again, Scots word for stone. Then it's got nane, which is the Scots word for none. So
I know.
we have to translate.
Lots of words that are just letters, like "oh."
Yeah. Oh, the Dean O Westminster. Yes. Now that we're past the song and King George IV's reprimands, not sure the reprimands mean that much in the end.
Right.
So Ian plans to lay low until the media craze blows over, but apparently does not seem to be letting up quickly. He's also worried about the stone, burying it in the soil with freezing temperatures on the way may not have been the smartest choice.
Yeah, they're not treating this stone very nicely.
No, I mean, it already broke with its first contact with the world in 700 years. So
right.
Not a great recent history. So on New Year's Eve, he, Alan, and two new buddies, they got a bigger crew, go to retrieve it. Super easy job. They have the map and some shovels. What could go wrong? Mm-hmm. Well, turns out there's an Irish traveler encampment parked right on top of it. Ian and his buddies use their Scottish charm and maybe some of that whiskey to convince the encampment to not only move, but also to help them carry it to what I hope is a much bigger car. Legend says that Ian gave a rousing speech on how the British monarchy had oppressed the Irish and Scottish long enough, and this stone was a symbol of freedom and the best way to fight back. So cue the Braveheart clip. Freedom! Yes. Yeah. Although Ian's still alive. He's not being ripped apart. But he's
spoiler
saying the words. Yes. Spoiler alert. Sorry.
And despite the heightened attention in the press and at the borders, the force had managed to smuggle the stone back into Scotland. A shockingly easy feat, all things considered. They just did it. Once back at their homeland, the brave heisters handed the stone over to the Scottish Covenant Association, the ones who were campaigning for a Scottish parliament. And these loyal Scots, they know exactly where to hide it. On a chilly January morning, a representative from the Scottish Covenant Association knocks on the workshop door of a Covenant member named Tam Smith. And the story goes that when Tam opened the door, the representative asked, "Are you 100% Scotsman?" To which Tam replies, "I am 200%, if that's possible. Bring it in." Apparently the stone hadn't even been brought up. Tam just had a feeling.
If you're 200% Scotsman, I guess you feel it, It's like the Force for Scotland. You feel it.
Yeah. The 61-year-old engineer was more than happy to hide the stone under the floorboards. Tam was such a known patriot that a Scottish police officer actually shows up one day and jokingly asks, "Okay, Tam, where is it?" They share a laugh, and the officer leaves. Okay, maybe if you had a hunch, you could follow your heart, man.
Such a friendly relationship between the police and their citizens,
Yeah. The Scottish Covenant Association moves it again to an even more remote secret location in Scotland, but not before Tam took a little piece. Everyone's got to break off a piece of that.
I don't understand this. This is like, no, I'm 200% Scotsman. I'm so Scotsman. I'm going to destroy a little more of this stone that means so much to our country.
This stone is not a Kit Kat. Stop trying to break off some pieces. Anyway, Ian also later recovers a small portion of the stone from Kay's friend's house in Birmingham and hands it over to the Scottish Covenant Association a lot.
The SCA, if you would.
Commonly known as the SCA.
As we all know, the SCA, right?
Yeah, yes. Exactly. He was glad to be rid of the stone because the police were on to him. Glasgow City Police headed the investigation with Detective Chief Inspector William Kerr in charge. And as known members of the Scottish Covenant movement,
SCM.
Similar but different. Ian and his friends were one of the many questioned. Kay pretended to not even speak English during her interrogation. She's like, I only speak Gaelic.
Yeah.
But Ian was a person of special interests, more so than the other members. In modern times, police might subpoena a person's web history. Imagine if you Googled, how much does the Stone of Destiny weigh? But of course, that was not possible back in the 50s. So instead, the police look through library records. They pull records in Glasgow's Mitchell Library, and there they see that Ian pulled every single book on the Stone of Destiny. Okay, let's lean in towards...
He's just a scholar. He's just a big fan, right?
So the guy they suspected just happened to also want to know about it.
Uh-huh.
But now, even if Ian confesses, he doesn't have the stone or pieces of the stone. In fact, now that the SCA has both pieces, they need to reunite them. If only they knew a stonemason. Welcome back, Robert Gray, the guy who is planning to stage the Indiana Jones-esque heist back in the 1930s. He's back in the action.
Back again. Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. He uses copper tube doweling and a brass rod to fuse the pieces together. Legend has it, he stuffed a piece of paper inside. The words written on the paper, if any, are unknown. Gray took that secret to the grave. The stone is back home, and in one piece again. But what to do now? We'll see what happens after the break.
Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
This podcast takes no shortcut in producing outstanding content. How they haven't become more widely recognized is beyond me.
I love this show. Smart commentary, in-depth interviews, and great production.
It's obvious how serious these guys take their podcast and bring that next level of professionalism that anyone would be hard-pressed to match.
There are few things better in life than listening to people who are both passionate and knowledgeable about their subject matter. The Projection Booth, with their wide and wild range of film discussions, is one of those things. Simple as that.
The Projection Booth is the highest quality film podcast around. I love the focus on cult films, witty, informative banter, and amazing interviews. The Projection Booth is the best podcast out there if you're a serious film lover.
The Projection Booth Podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
Okay, well, and we're back. So Ian successfully returned both pieces of the stone to Scotland, minus a few little nicked off souvenirs, of course. The Scottish Covenant Association, the SCA, has their pride and joy. But what to do with it now that the chaos of reuniting the pieces is over? We're about to find out, Heist Club. So after a few months, the Scottish Covenant Association, let's just say SCA, decides it's time to return the stone. Pretty lame, if you ask me. Actually, really lame. I'm like confused by this, right? They've gone through all this work.
Yeah, they're like, okay, fun's
it's
over.
Like, oh, we have it. Now, like, you plan for all this. To me, it seems like you hold on to it. Like, even if it's in secrecy, it means so much to be in Scotland. So I just don't, in my mind, to a degree, it's like, okay, fine. We'll return it and you'll put us on trial and this will bring even more attention to Scottish independence, right? So maybe, but I just we don't have clear information of if that's what they were doing, or maybe in their minds, they thought the point had been made and they didn't want to drag the investigation out and make the British really mad. This is very different than the fight for Irish independence.
Right.
They were pretty okay with the British being mad in that fight,
Exactly, yeah.
Anyway, there's also rumors, I guess, of King George's cancer running rampant. And they thought if he died and there wasn't a Stone of Destiny, what would happen for the next coronation? But again, like, I don't know why they care about this. They want to be separate from England. So they care about the coronation? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, but, in the least, they did just turn it into authorities at least. Instead, they placed it on the site of the high altar at Arbroath Abbey, where in 1320, which is after Randall Wallace was put to death, if you would, because that was like early 1300s. But in 1320, the assertion of Scottish nationhood was made in the Declaration of Arbroath. So this is a very symbolic place to leave the stone. And then the Abbey custodian, a guy named James Wishart, found it on the morning of April 11th, 1951, draped in the Scottish flag. We actually have a picture of that too, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
That a picture exists of that. Meanwhile, Detective Inspector William Kerr keeps the pressure on Ian. He knows that Ian was out of Scotland at the time of the theft, and they checked out every book on the stone. And talking to Ian Pierce, he builds a theory on the conspiracy between Ian and his friend. He actually interviews Kay, Gavin, and Alan. But again, Kay pretends to only speak Gaelic, and Kerr wasn't having it. He knows they did it, but he only has flimsy circumstantial evidence to back it. Lucky for them, there will not be a prosecution. So Sir Hartley Shawcross, who's actually a prosecutor of the Nuremberg trials and now a parliament member and legal advisor, he addresses the parliament on the matter, saying, quote, "The clandestine removal of the stone from Westminster Abbey and the manifest disregard for the sanctity of the abbey were vulgar acts of vandalism which have caused great distress and offense both in England and Scotland. I do not think, however, that the public interest required criminal proceedings to be taken." So basically, there was fear that it would become even more political matter if it went on trial, and political movements love their martyrs. So they said, you know what? We have the stone back. We think we know who did it, but we're not going to prosecute. We're just happy to have it back.
Right.
So the stone was then returned in a low-key procession and locked in a vault. It didn't make its official return to Westminster Abbey until almost a year later, though, in February 1952, shortly after the king's funeral. So I guess not before. It was not there in time for the funeral. But also, not 100% of the stone was returned. You see when Ian handed over to the Scottish Covenant Association, the SCA, he kept a small piece and had it turned into a brooch. He gifted it to his girlfriend for her 21st birthday. Lucky lady, wearing a piece of Scottish history.
That's pretty cool.
It's cool. It's cool. I guess if they're going to return, at least they kept a piece.
Right.
It means something to them, at least. But then on June 2nd, 1953, fans of the crown will know that Queen Elizabeth II sat on the coronation chair with the stone underneath for her televised coronation. And since it was once again in the hands of the English, there were, as you might imagine, more rescue attempts over time. In 1967, a man attempted to remove the stone from under the chair, but this time the Abbey had an alarm system. Modern times. He was convicted of larceny. So imagine getting prosecuted for attempted thefts when the original thieves got off with basically a warning. So not a lucky guy. And then in 1974, another man managed to bypass security, but he was caught after the cart he brought in to transport the stone crumpled under its weight. The charges against him were dropped.
Clearly, the stone means a lot to Scotland. So much so that decades later, in July 1996, Queen Elizabeth II, along with Prime Minister John Major, declared that the stone would return to Scotland. There was a ceremony in November of that year when the stone was brought to lay in Edinburgh Castle. And hey, how cool, two of the original thieves, Kay and Gavin, attended the ceremony. We see a photo of Kay viewing it in 96, I'm assuming, in the Edinburgh Castle. She said, quote, "It was all worth it. If we hadn't done it, it would not be here today."
Which is true.
Good for her.
I think that's true, at least, right? We can connect those dots.
Right.
Kay looks proud. You could tell it's still Kay. Her hair actually has not changed that much in how many years? 60 years?
Yeah, still rocking the plaid, just different. Ian declined the invitation to the ceremony because he wasn't thrilled about the concession that the stone would still return to England for use in the future coronations. So it wasn't exactly to his liking. 200% Scotsman, if you ask me.
Yeah, Ian sounds like, I'd say he sounds like 2% Scotsman, except they returned the stone in the first place. I think a 200% Scot would have held on to it.
He's like a 190% Scotsman.
Almost there.
So, how did our heroes fare? After dodging a prosecution, they became local celebrities. Gavin recalled he never had to buy a beer again as long as he was in Glasgow.
That's a good life.
Yeah.
I mean, Gavin loves beer.
He loves his beer.
One thing we know about the guy.
Yeah. Gavin Vernon became an electrical engineer and immigrated to Canada. On Christmas Eve 2000, the 50th anniversary, the Abbey was specially opened for Gavin. The guard had said, "Welcome back, Mr. Vernon." That's nice.
That's nice.
Not like there was anything else to take, just there for old time's sake, maybe even a bit of gloating. He's just there to be happy. He died a few years later in 2004. Kay Matheson stayed at her primary school. She remained an active member of the Scottish National Party and led campaigns against rival candidates. She stayed proud of her involvement in the liberation and had no regrets. 0% Scottish regrets. She died in 2013. In 2024, a local theater company wrote a play about her and Ian stealing the stone. Sorry, Gavin and Alan, we gotta, you're out.
Not a part of this story. The focus of the love affair that we are.
Yeah, exactly. And they toured it around to 35 schools, including the one she taught at.
You're so sweet.
I know. Alan Stewart also remained in Glasgow and retreated into anonymity, but he ran a successful business. He died in 2019. And it's just sad talking about all these old people dying, but I guess that's what happened when you do things in the 50s.
That was old stories, yeah. As for Ian, though, Ian Hamilton went on to have a successful career in criminal law, actually. Quite the twist. What a surprise. He even rose to be a member of the Queen's Council, but he stayed a strong Scottish nationalist to the end, 200%. The Stone was a sore spot for Ian, though. Young lawyers knew not to mention his precedents, although we did read that over time he did soften. According to the Telegraph, Ian said, quote, "I'm not ashamed. In fact, I'm rather proud. We drove down the bleak, narrow roads to London to hurt no one, rather to puncture England's pride, to save no one but the ruined hopes of our country." Ian also wrote 2 books about the taking of the Stone. And then we have another quote here from Ian. This is the BBC. "To do something for your country that spills not a drop of blood is, I think, something to be proud of." Inspiring words. Mm-hmm. And then he died only a few years ago in 2022. So, unfortunately, this ends with all 4 of them no longer being with us. But this is a crime a long time ago, so can't be shocked by that. Sure enough, though, Queen Elizabeth II also died in 2022, triggering the need for a coronation. And in 2023, the Stone of Destiny did make a brief return to Westminster Abbey for King Charles III's official coronation. So people who watch that on TV may not have known, but that was under the coronation chair. And then true to his father, Ian's son, Jamie, protested the move, arguing, "If you want to be crowned on the Stone, come to Scotland and do it." I love it. That's the right attitude.
Yep.
And then 2024, so this is more recent news, the Stone of Destiny was moved to Perth Museum in Scotland. It was being overlooked, apparently, in Edinburgh Castle. So in Perth, the stone is now the stunning centerpiece of displays telling the story of Scottish history, and it's in the country it belongs, thanks to our 4 thieves here. So pretty amazing.
Nice.
Yeah. So, a happy ending for the Stone. It's in the country it belongs in, thanks to the heist they pulled off at that time. It did work.
Yeah.
So
what do we think of this heist? I feel like when I get to this part of the show, I always am not sure. I'm like, I go through it and then I have mixed feelings about how many diamonds it deserves for this heist.
I agree. It's complicated because obviously we all think these are stories that are worth telling.
Right.
So we think they're entertaining and they're interesting and they have great details. But when you actually break it down, the heist itself, the planning, the execution, whether they pull it off or they get caught, etc. This is a better one. 3 diamonds out of 5, maybe 3.5 diamonds. The planning is a little amiss. They do study the plans. They do know about the door. They do eventually, jemmy the door open.
Nice.
And thank you. I remember that. I'm going to start using that from now on. And then, they face hurdles, especially on night 1, and they figure it out. They still get it out of there, not in one piece per se. But they get it out. They dodge the policeman. I don't know. There's things they do well, even if it's not all perfectly planned. 3 feels a little low. I'm going to give it 3.5 diamonds.
It's such a cinematic heist. I can totally, all this drama is happening in this hour or whatever, it's just so insane. It's a kind of a comical, event that they're doing. But these college kids, they did a lot for their country, and that's what they're meant to do. So I would say at least a solid 3 for me.
Okay.
Midway. Yeah.
Okay, so we're in the same region again. I don't think we've really had too many differences yet.
No. All right.
But listeners, Heist Club members, tell us what you would give this. Sound off in the comments. Tell us how many diamonds you would give this heist and why. Also, would you have given up after the stone broke? Would you have run away? Would you have stayed there and lugged it yourself with the help of your jacket and somehow got in the car? I don't know. Maybe if you're young enough, or like we said, with the right adrenaline, it's not as hard as it sounds, but sure sounds pretty hard to me. But, it's the heart of the stone is the heart of Scotland. So they had to do it.
Yep.
How would you have hid the stone? Did you think burying it and covering it in whiskey first was the right plan? Again, it worked out, kind of. Would you have given it to Tam, who was 200% Scottish, 200% Scotsman, if you would? And then we didn't get into this that much, but we actually read somewhere, maybe if anyone else wants to dig into this, but the stone that was given back to England was perhaps a fake, and maybe Robert Gray's fake, because remember he had constructed a fake years earlier in the 30s before World War II took over and he didn't do it anymore. There is that conspiracy theory out there. Not enough for us to tell that story today, but maybe there's other theories. And also, obviously, if you're Scottish or you're English, we'd love to know what the stone means to you or does not mean to you at the same time. Yeah.
All right.
But
I like this one.
Yeah, me too. Okay, get in touch with us and tell us what you think. You could follow us and become a full-fledged member of the Heist Club on Instagram and TikTok. We are at Heist Club Pod. That's at Heist Club POD. Look forward to hearing from all of you. Thanks for listening today.
And we'll be taking off the next 2 weeks for the holidays, so we'll see you all in the new year with more Heist Club.
See ya.
Bye.
Heist Club is a production of School of Humans, hosted by me, Todd Weiser.
And me, Jesse Neismonger. I do all the fancy audio and music editing too.
This episode was researched and produced by Carolyn Talmadge. Our senior producer is Amelia Brock.
Our production manager is Daisy Church. Our executive producers are Virginia Prescott, Brandon Barr, and Elsie Crowley.
Join us again next week for Heist Club, and don't forget to rate and review. Thanks.